What's up, Joker? What's up, Joker? All right, guys, I figured it out. Just got to get the Peace Dealer back in the room, and then we'll be good to go. It's my first time streaming, so I appreciate everybody's patience. All right, there we go.
There we go. Awesome.
It was in so it was under the brand tab. It wasn't in the banners.
Brand. Okay.
Yeah, it was on that overlay section in the brand tab.
Okay. Awesome.
All this technical stuff, man. It's above my pay grade.
I feel you. I'm glad we're able to do this here, though.
Yeah, man, me too. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate it.
No problem. No problem. I'm looking forward to interpreting your chart. Um, did you wanted to go jump straight into it, or did you want to introduce anything first?
Um, yeah, I'm gonna introduce you first, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Um, Nothing too crazy, really. Bear with me for just a second here.
Take your time.
All right. So if you were on the anybody watching, if you were on the first attempt at this stream, I had my boy's music playing. I just want to give him a shout out. He's on Spotify, Apple Music. His name is Die Vinny, spelled divine, but with a hyphen in between Die and Vinny. He's got all kinds of albums out, all kinds of music. Been a good friend of mine for a long time, a very gifted artist, a very gifted lyricist. He produces a lot of music too. So I just want to give a shout out to Die Vinny for letting me use some of his tracks here earlier in the first attempt at this stream. So definitely appreciate that. Thank you all very much for joining me here today. I'm with the professional astrologer, the peace dealer. He's going to be going over my natal chart. We're going to be talking astrology, maybe mixing in some tarot and some crystals as well. This is my first time live streaming, so I definitely appreciate everybody being here today. Or if you're watching the playback, I definitely appreciate you there as well. Thank you so much for joining me. And without further ado, this is the Peace Dealer.
Appreciate you once again for having me, bro.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
I'm kind of grateful once again to do this. And let's see what we have. Let's see what we have. I get to present my screen here. Let's see. All right, so
Let me ask you this before we jump right into it. Like when you, because you're very good and very thorough at what you do and the way you articulate it and explain it. Like when someone like me sends you a chart, right from the jump, how quickly does it take you to discern things and say like, okay, like this is here, that's there, and like how quickly do you know like the intricacies of someone's personality just by looking at a chart like this?
that's a really good question. And I can show you right now because I've not seen your chart yet.
Okay.
The screen is there if you bring it up whenever we
Oh
start.
yeah, I
But
got you.
yeah, basically, I really love that question because I don't necessarily like research the chart before I do a reading, especially if I'm live. I like to look at it fresh live with the person because to me, the first impression I have of a chart, I like to think will be the first impression that someone is going to have when they see
Okay.
it, even without, whether they know the aspects of the chart or not. So, I mean, I've been doing this for over 10 years. So I think when I started, um, there is definitely, it was definitely more like this piece and then this piece and then this piece. But now, like within like the first minute, I've already indicated, oh, you have this, and that, and it gives me an idea and a picture, and then we start to go deeper.
Yep.
And yeah, we can. But I really do like that question because usually happens is I'll see like one or two or three indicators, and I'm already like going wild, like, oh my god, like holy shit.
it's it feels to me just by the way you explained it like it's almost I compare it to when I first started throwing cards, right? Because like the meanings of cards, but then the more you experience them and the more you kind of read for people, the more you see how certain things connect together
Yeah,
and how certain factions or certain combinations can mean certain things at certain times and different placements, all that type of stuff. So I feel like the way you explained it, it makes perfect sense to me because I feel like I've had similar experiences in learning cards too. So that's
and I'm
awesome.
glad you mentioned tarot too, because they're both similar. You learn, you recognize certain patterns once you've been reading or doing this long enough. And then I know with tarot, it's like the story reads itself to you, and you just kind of
Mm-hmm.
get that. So I totally agree with that. But yeah, other than that, so what's your birthday?
My birthday is July 22nd,
Okay,
1985.
All right, already. Okay, 1985. So 29 degrees Cancer. And then
Yeah. At 29 degrees Cancer and an old motherfucker, bro.
right, I feel you. You probably have North Node, Taurus, Jupiter, Aquarius, which is also dope. Do you know what time you were born?
Yeah, I think it was 11:21 a.m., but let
Oh,
me just verify that with you. I'm going to look back into that email that I sent you with those attachments,
cool.
um, just so I'm making sure that I'm giving you the right information.
Yeah,
And for those of you watching who are used to only watching my readings, this is going to be a little bit more candid me than it is on my readings because I keep my readings rated G. You know.
right. Okay, cool, cool, cool. I like that. And the thing I like with astrology too is after you've read it a lot, you can tell a lot by the year. If you know the year, what happened that year, or the month,
Okay.
it kind of helps you. Like, okay, I know this planet's going to be here and there, and then we can get the.
I forget in the Chinese zodiac. I used to remember this about my year, but I can't remember what year it was. With the different animals that they have in their zodiac based on the year.
The ox.
The ox. That's right. That's
Yeah,
right. Yep.
yeah.
That's right.
I've been sleep. It's the wood ox too. I've been sleeping on Chinese zodiac. I want to start like teaching that. It's so much more accurate than I initially
I,
expected.
I remember the first time someone introduced it to me, and I started reading just a little bit about it, and I was like, "Wow!"
Right.
like instant parallels almost. I felt like to what I already knew. Just very interesting. All right, let's see here. I'm just going through my phone right now to.
And do you know what the birthplace is?
Yeah, it's a place called Ansonia, Ansonia, Connecticut.
Connecticut. There we go. Moon in Virgo. Oh, this is nice. This is gonna be nice already. Yeah.
And then for some reason I couldn't find it in there, but I do have it in my screenshot, so I'll be able to confirm. I believe the time was 11:21
In the morning.
um,
Okay.
in the AM. Yep, in the AM. Let's see here. Yes, 11:21 a.m., July 22nd, 1985, Ansonia, Connecticut.
That's beautiful. All right. So here we have your chart already right off the bat. What I like to see in a chart are high degrees. So we
Mhm.
see 29 degree, 28 degree. I like to see what's on the rising. You have the queen goddess Juno. So off the bat, I would look at this as a very significant chart, as every chart is significant, but there are just certain charts you see that scream mastery. It's kind of like yours. So we have every time I do a chart reading that features any Virgo planet, like I like to say, y'all always have the audacity to just be so precise and on point. So, like the odds that you would have a 5 degree AC right next to Juno at 6 degrees, that's like winning the lottery to me because the AC is going to spin around like one sign every hour. And to get it right next to it, to me, that's not a mistake. So right off the bat, you have a level of precision and you're so on point. This is going to reflect in your personality, which is a social personality with a social soul, even though you have the spirit of the homebody, Cancer, mastered. But yet at 1 years old, you progressed in a Leo. And over the next 30 years, you began to develop your social consciousness and integrating as Cancer as the makeup artist becomes the lead role, where now you're expressing the courage of the psychic awareness. But certain things we want to keep in mind. I usually look for Juno for women. When women have Juno on the rising moon or sun, she is a queen goddess. She has that like rank. And it does apply for men too, because Juno is really a point of rulership. So to see Juno on your rising is very significant. And then on top of that, the moon in the 12th house is very interesting too. So 29 degrees Cancer. Cancer is the psychic. So knowing that you read tarot is very interesting. If I saw your chart and I knew you were reading my tarot cards, I would know that you would be so accurate and detailed on point. And one is due to the 29-degree sun Cancer. So Cancer sun is psychic awareness. Cancer sun is the Holy Spirit because we have the triplicity of the water, the Cancer being holy, Scorpio being pure, Pisces being divine. And as an artist, right, the Libra rising makes your title that of activist, artist, the social personality that presents one's personality and being. Well, sixth house Pisces means you live the dream life. You're able to incorporate your imagination and be that on the basis on how you believe you should serve others and how you should live your life collectively. The reason why I have to speak on that though is unlike Aries 12th house is Pisces, which is opposite the Libra. So Aries 12th house in Pisces, they're going to believe who they should be and they're going to analyze how they should live their life. Well, Libra flips this on its head. They believe how they should live their life and imagine as the artist how they're going to create this canvas. But now the 12th house of Virgo of analysis is in this spiritual or unconscious place, which adds much more of a, I think, scientific or analytical view where you're breaking down the details of the metaphysical. And then you're also, of course, integrating analytically the metaphysical. So it enables you to account for details and social nuances. Now we have your moon here. So the moon here in the 12th to me means that it is impossible to lie to you. Like you have a hidden camera that is reading the nuances and the minor twitches in people's body, and people don't even know that you're picking that up. Like at the micro level. And we want to also account for 28 degrees making a 59-degree angle to 29 degrees Cancer and a 60-degree angle to Mars. So now this is a Gemini signature. It's just coming off the Taurus signature. The moon in Virgo Cancer sun archetype is the master psychic. The master psychic, because now your psychic awareness is being supported by an analytical understanding, projecting this sensual, physical, tangible feeling to project what you already feel. And this is what makes this brand of Cancer Sun representatives very lethal, because the Cancer Sun is very irrational. Like they're not going to be as delusional as Pisces or like really kind of obsessive as Scorpio, but they're going to be emotional. But now you having the moon in Virgo grounds these feelings, and you're going to have the psychic insight, but you're going to understand what about it is grounded in reality. You're going to pull receipts like I'm sensing that this person might be lying. The Virgo moon is looking at their body twitching. And you're like, oh, see, there's something there. And you come into at 29, 28 degrees, instantly. You are the master here.
It's so on point the way you're explaining it too, because I feel like even at a young age, I kind of knew, like internally, subconsciously, maybe, that all of these things that you're saying about myself, I just couldn't like quantify it or like really understand it for myself or understand how to use it. But as I've gotten older, for instance, I haven't drank alcohol in over 5 years, right? I committed to stopping. I'm also a vegan, right? So like over the last 5 years, by taking care of my body, my temple that much more, like I feel like I have really started to come into all of these things that you're talking about. And I mean, I always knew that I had them, but now I'm really like coming into them to the point where like social situations almost seem to slow down for me when I'm interacting with people one-on-one, and like that twitching that you notice, right? Or like I can pick up on, I can smell bullshit from a mile away when I'm in social circumstances, any type of social circumstance. So
okay.
And it's like a radar, it's like a bat signal, like I pick up on it right away, which kind of like, I almost look at it as like divine protection to a degree, right? Because like I feel as though when those alerts go off, it also prompts me to carry certain conversations in certain directions so that I know that I'm not exposing myself in an unnecessary way in certain circumstances and conversations.
That's deep. And once again, please don't hesitate to interrupt if you have any questions or anything you want to mention as well.
Sure, I appreciate that.
Because what you just mentioned here, really in knowing that, especially in social situations, you feel that very relevant. And one thing about you having the Libra rising is that it puts your sun in the 10th house. So you are this individual public figure. With the MC in Cancer, MC in the first four zodiac signs is an individually fulfilled legacy, which means the success you come into is all based on what you did. It's not like an MC Capricorn that's the CEO of Starbucks and they're very successful, but it took a whole organization and team they're responsible for. This is your ship. And as my youngest sister is a Cancer sun with the Libra rising, and one thing except she has like moon in Gemini, but like she kind of taught me, relative to that 10th house vision where she had ideas for music videos and like every action in the scene has this deeper meaning that's going to reflect onto that. And I think that's what that 10th house Cancer is. It's being able to really, exalt this sense of your reputation. I feel like you're also able to feel what people feel about you. And Mars adds a more militant, aggressive approach. Mars is in its fall in Cancer, but what I think that means is like a psychic gun. So it's not physical, it's not instinctual, but you know how to project your emotions to protect you, to actually, influence how other people feel. And I think since it's so close to the sun, which is going to travel a bit faster than it, you activated this 2-year cycle right before you were born. Like, well, it activated and then you were born. So you have the power of Mars. There's a God construct or alien construct article that it doesn't include personal planets, but it does still apply. So you were born with the psychic power of the God of War. At its final degrees, and with that moon in Virgo, it gives you so much precision towards how exactly you activate and express that. Now, to put that in context, you have this 60-degree angle in the 12th house, so it's purely hidden. The 12th house is legendary, so you have legendary soul status. And what makes it legendary is now this is an unconscious house and you're being guided by metaphysical mechanics that you understand the details of. The reason why this is weird is because if someone were to exactly ask you how, it's not really gonna, you could break it down, but it's not gonna be the most linear. So if you were to share these feelings like most 12 house moons, you will be very misunderstood because it can go against the conventional logic. An example of this is, someone is wondering who stole my bag, and now you're pointing at the person by the door and you're like, that person stole it. And people are like, how do you know? And you're like, I pulled the 7 of Swords. And now that's, you know what I mean? Like it makes sense to you, but that might not. You just pulled a card and then you're right though. You ended up being.
No, you're right on point, because like I call it like a knowing, right? Like quote unquote knowing, like, because sometimes like it's hard. I wouldn't say hard because I can articulate it, but you're right on point in that sometimes some people don't understand it when I articulate it. And even though it makes sense to me, right? But it's more of a feeling of like a knowing. In certain circumstances, I just know things, and sometimes I can't explain why. Again, it's just like this knowing, right? And another thing that you had said about like me, like coming into my own triumphs, doing my own things, right? I've been an independent contractor for a very long time. I have my own LLC, right? I am an established baseball umpire. I've gotten to pretty high levels of umpiring baseball. And I've come into my own, also owning my own LLC, assigning umpires too. So I'm able to make money not just from umpiring games, but from assigning umpires as well. So, yes, you're right on point.
I have chills now too. Thank you for saying that, because you confirmed Mars near the career and its connection to athleticism.
Okay. Yeah. So I was talking to a numerologist one time too, and he goes, "Bro, it's no significance," or he goes, "It's no coincidence that you are involved in baseball." I'm like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "Well," he's like, "You know what pi is, right?" And I'm like, "Yeah, 3.14, et cetera, et cetera." He goes, "Yeah, well, that's how they measure circles or measure spheres, right? Like a baseball." He goes, "You're born on 22/7. Which is the second Pi day on the calendar."
Wow.
If
So
you
there's that.
divide 22 by 7, 3.1, you get pi. And I'm just like, well, yo, that's crazy. That's crazy. So, and
Um,
you used another word too, which is real funny because a good friend of mine used that same word once upon a time. I had this great friend of mine who I met in corporate, right? When I had some corporate jobs when I was younger. And again, just this sense of knowing when I was getting shoveled a load of bullshit from the higher ups in corporate, right? And I have no fear, man. Like my mouth has gotten me in trouble a lot in my days,
yeah,
bro, like a lot. And so if I was getting shoveled a load of bullshit, I would just tell him, like, it would be professional, but I would call
yeah,
you out, right? And
right.
so the word that she used about me and about my approaches in these types of circumstances was exactly the same word that you use, bro. And she said this like, man, I'm talking like 6, 7 years ago, and the word was militant, man. Like
Millet.
there's a certain precision that I go in with. Like I kind of map out my
Oh,
approaches before, and I just execute them. You know what I mean? So when you said that word, man, it took me right back to that time when she used that word with me, and I'm like, yo, like she knew it without even knowing it. You
right.
know?
I have chills once again. I love situations like that where people, that's how I know, like certain people have never read their charts or some people don't know astrology, but they'll speak to the points on the chart. And that's how I know they know. It's like, okay, you didn't need to read the chart to know this. But
Yeah.
like, yeah, I appreciate you saying that because I've been researching, this was proven in the Mars experiment that was scientists tried to debunk it and whatnot. But other than that, like, you know, you could tell a lot of one's career by what's next to the MC. Like
Okay.
people who are involved in the beauty industry or makeup have Venus by the MC. LeBron James, who won an ESPY, has Mars on his MC, and when Saturn was on his MC, he won the ESPY. So it's
Mhm.
nice to know it's not, I don't think that you're only involved in athletics, but it's good to know that you're really good at what you do. And when you told me that you own the LLC, my eyes looked to Saturn in your second house because the second house is what you have. And Saturn there means that you possess a totality of wisdom and its ownership in the form of, it's going to be related to business and it's going to be related to, of course, overcoming very intense and extreme self-esteem issues. In fact, this is a point of your destiny. Whenever I see Saturn on the south node, to me that means you are a judge in your past life and you're here to serve people. And when I say serve people, I mean you got served. Like anyone who is messing up with certain karmic lessons, you suddenly show up and you are their tester.
Yo, I've had that exact feeling my entire life, and I had this like I don't want to call it like full disclosure, man. I'm a like as much of a jock as I am. I'm also a full blown nerd, right? I used to play this
Awesome.
game called Magic the Gathering. Okay,
Oh, that's all. I bet you're really good at it then.
I used to be all right. I used to be all
Okay.
right.
All right.
But there's a card in MTG called Sadistic Glee, right? And like, I don't want to say I have this like sadistic glee, but like, I have this like, there's like this giddy, like this childlike giddiness inside of me when I can serve that instant karma. Like, I can't explain
Oh,
it. Like,
instant karma. Right, right,
I
right.
can't
Okay.
when I'm serving it to people, like,
Right,
for
right.
instance, I'll give you a
It's
quick
your
example. Like,
destiny, which I love.
yeah, man. Like if a kid talks shit at the plate because he didn't like a strike call with a ball that was, a half a ball off the plate, and he's giving me crap about it because I called it a strike and he thought it was a ball. It's like, man, I hope this next one is 3 inches off because I'm gonna call that one a strike too, bro. Like I'm gonna teach you a lesson, man. If it looks good, we're swinging. So like, yeah, there's this like giddiness I get inside of me, man, when I'm able to serve that instant karma, knowing that not only that, like, knowing that it's true and real, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
knowing that like I'm not doing a disservice, like you had said, doing an actual service, man, because like I know that what I'm doing is not like it's not ill-intended. It's not like I'm not out to get people, right? But when I know that I can somehow provide like an instant like serving of karma to people who have it coming, like there's this weird like feeling of joy that I get inside.
That's interesting.
And it propels me to keep doing good things is truly what it does.
And that I think is really, I'm glad you mentioned that as well because when we look at the Saturn as well, this cycle began 83. I think this is when Pluto went into Scorpio and Saturn had just gone into Scorpio. So you are a part of the Saturn Pluto matrix in Scorpio. where Saturn had conjuncted Pluto, and you now have activated this quality of Saturn. The way I like to look at the second house in Scorpio is that Gemini has the juice because Gemini has Cancer and Cancer's the juice. Well, Libra has Scorpio. Scorpio's the sauce, which means you got the sauce. This is what you have in the second house. Now,
Okay.
not only do you have the sauce, not everyone who has second house Scorpio has Pluto in Scorpio. So what's the ruler of Scorpio? Pluto. You have the ruler of your second house right next to the second house. So unlike other cases where like someone might have a Libra rising, but their Pluto is in Sag or it's in Libra, they have to outsource the sauce with Pluto and Libra so that they can, manifest it versus you having the sauce master in the factory. So you have the direct plug to the purest element of wisdom, and that's how you make money. This is what you manifest: pure energy, pure wisdom. Saturn now takes that concept and gives you a totality of it, which means you're going to be very disciplined in the way you spend money. And before you were, this may have created financial issues until you got it right. Maybe even coming into 2017 where that Saturn return happened, or 2015 where the Saturn return happened. So yeah, really cool, because I think it could be easy to fall back on this value. You have, this very strong quality. And the challenge with Taurus is to know or to judge who it is you invest that value into, who it is you exercise that judgment. Because in the eighth house in Taurus, it's being trusted with other people's resources, money. It's other people's money and physical valuables. And, it could tempt people to steal from you, hence the boundaries here. But here's the thing: if the North Node was on your Saturn, or if the North Node is in your second house, to me, that means you're destined to gain, do fundraisers. You're destined to have people trust you with their money because it's funneling there. But when I see now the eighth house having the North Node, to me, that means you're meant to use your money to invest in the right projects, to invest in the right value, and to multiply it, to really ground that wisdom. And with Saturn here, Saturn means that you kind of are the plug. Like you have so much, depth with which to share. Now, we also see this makes part of a T-square, Jupiter opposite Mercury. Jupiter in Aquarius is actually going to account for the expansion of knowledge that not only links with your heart on Chiron, but as a Libra rising, has you fully express genius when it comes to your creativity, when it comes to your talent, in that you know what it is you're doing. It doesn't make an exact 90-degree square yet with Saturn, but it still does lightly square in the sense where now you have integrity of wisdom. And this integrity of wisdom is being challenged by how creatively knowledgeable you can express and integrate it, which now, of course, opposite the Mercury, gives you both passion and intellect. The Mercury in Leo is going to process information boldly, courageously, but Jupiter is going to put it in check so that you know what it is you're saying and you're expressing it with so much creativity. Where does that link to? Your Venus in Gemini. So now Venus in Gemini in the ninth, you use your heart to teach people in the way you polish communication. Some of the most beautiful writers have Venus in Gemini. And with Chiron here, this could represent your heart being wounded and your heart also having angelic healing communication ability. In the ninth house here, it will also be, whether indirectly or directly, because it is behind your sun. This is where when you express your heart like so, it will heal. But what we see is that it's opposite Uranus. So the opposition of Uranus now connects this with a very major magic portal. We'll get to the moon in Virgo, but the Chiron opposition to Uranus is going to be healing eccentricity. First of all, this denotes you are a child prodigy, or a very, very, you're here to innovate the nature of learning, which in Sagittarius means that and I could be wrong, correct me if I'm wrong, but this looks like a visual learner, someone that has to really see how the meaning of how what you're saying works And now Chiron opposite this is overcoming fears of people thinking you're crazy as fuck or too eccentric because you think really outside the box. But Venus will polish this, and it will really impact the nature of woman you get with because of, the opposition here, where relationships can be spontaneous and just
Mm-hmm.
go good and then bad. But then Jupiter trining Venus now gives your heart so much knowledge of what to say. So the Gemini aspect is being very smart and being able to communicate. But when we see Gemini trines to Aquarius, now there's this source of knowledge where you're not just saying it, you know what you're saying very creatively too. This comes back to the Juno embodiment and has you, and I could see the composure too with that. You're really sure of yourself. But what I want to ask you personally is, the opposition to Uranus is not normal. This is nonlinear, supernatural. So this could look like flash insights and visions. This could look like just knowing based off of what you feel in your heart or think in your heart. And with the Chiron, this suggests healing communication. Like when you communicate from the heart, it's healing. We're not in a perfect world, so the truth is going to trigger and piss people off before it sets them free. But like, what's your experience with that?
No, I think you're right on. Another thing that you said too, particularly, I want to go there first. You said people who have Gemini in their Venus, right, are very good writers. In high school, I was editor of the newspaper, the
Wow.
high school newspaper. I've always loved to write, right?
And
Like I've
I'm glad you
always,
said editor too, because I feel like Virgo is in a sense also an editor.
yep,
But
yep,
yeah.
yep. So,
So
but
you've always had a love of writing.
always, yeah, always, yep, from a young age too. And I did not finish college. That's a different story for a different day. But I've done decently for myself without a degree. But even in college, I took my major was journalism in college for the year and a half that I was there. So I've always had a love for writing. So that's one thing that caught my attention there with everything that you're saying.
That's awesome.
And then I'm sorry, going back to what you had said about the Uranus opposition.
Right. Yeah.
What were you saying about that? I'm sorry.
So to me, when I see oppositions like that, from the 3rd to the 9th, you first of all, this suggests you innovate the nature of learning by showing people how to see the truth. But
Mm-hmm.
then also, does this manifest for you in just flash insights and visions? Like, do you just
Mm-hmm.
suddenly know things? Do you see them before they happen? Yeah.
Sometimes, yep. Sometimes, yes. Also, too, like I have crazy tats everywhere, right? Like all my arms. One of the first tattoos I got was the word truth. Like my parents wouldn't let me get tattoos until I was 18, right? But ever since I was a kid, like I've had this insatiable desire for the truth, right? So that was one of my first tattoos, which is, you mentioned that word truth, and that's been like an integral part of my life since day one, right? Since day one. And then the whole like visions thing, like I feel like that also touches on what we were talking about earlier with my feelings of just knowing certain things, right? And sometimes, yes, I have like crazy like deja vu. Sometimes I have crazy premonitions sometimes. Like this is what's going to happen. And then sometimes it happens maybe like a day later. Other times it happens like an hour later, even though I'm in a completely different, surrounding or a completely different like area of town or whatever. So like I've done research on that. And like sometimes it's almost like a projection type of manifestation, right? Because like the power is so great within inside that you're able to literally just project outward what you want. And then in terms of manifestation, the universe then brings it to you, right? So like I've done some research on those theories, but also too, I'm not sure if this has something to do with the same topic. I feel like it may. My photographic memory is absolutely freaking bananas, man. Like I remember shit from like first grade, like what was happening in first grade. Like I remember my man, like crazy stuff. Like it literally happened yesterday. And I don't know how I got that memory, but it's been consistent that same way throughout my entire life.
I want to test for that because the only thing I've ever heard about people who have good memory is that it's associated with cancer.
Hmm.
Memories are in the feelings, and I would think maybe Virgo too, but that's very interesting. I don't know if it's specific or limited to that, but
Hmm.
that was very significant to know. Very significant.
I'm talking like details too, bro. Like not just like, oh yeah, I think I was here. Like,
That's the
no,
moon in
I
Virgo for sure. The
yeah,
detail.
like I know like the positioning of people in the room and who was where and like all kinds of crazy. Was it raining outside? Was it sunny? Like all kinds of crazy stuff, man.
Wow. And wow, dude. I think well, thank you for mentioning that, especially the premonitions, because that definitely is very interesting to know. And you've definitely confirmed the detailed understanding and analysis with the moon and Virgo. I think that's really the realest part about you, because at your core, you are your soul, you know. But
Hmm.
um,
Hmm.
I do have a question about the Venus on Chiron. Um, I've been researching whether it always manifests as an initial wound that you overcome. Does this look like, because in the third house Uranus is looking in a situation, and whereas everyone is like, okay, um, A A leads to B, leads to C, you're instantly able to look outside the box and see how A goes to XZ and then comes back to B. And okay, so with the Venus, does that manifest in whenever you truly express your heart? It weirds people the fuck out and could alienate you. Does that always happen, or is that an issue? I mean, it may not be as much anymore, but I'm trying to see how you've experienced this.
Uh, uh, I'll give you the short version and then the long version. The short version is I've been single for 6 years.
Okay. Cool, cool. All right,
The long version is yeah, like I've obviously being single for that long has been by choice, right? But
right, right.
I've gone through experiences before in relationships that have led me to where I am now, and I'm quite comfortable in that scenario, right?
Right.
But yes, like part of what you had said about my placements, and of course, part of obviously my own experiences and my own interpretations of those experiences have led me to this place where, yeah, even the women who I have expressed my feelings towards and shared my heart with, yes, like sometimes it has led to like just not exactly what you would think, you know. It's been a very interesting journey for sure in that regard. Yeah, absolutely.
Which I think is a great lesson to just express that regardless of the reaction.
Hmm.
Which so what's really interesting though about this, first of all, your archetype is that of the social individual. Moon in Virgo, social, Sun Cancer individual. So you're the social individual with a social personality, the artist personality. Now, what's really interesting concerning transits is Pluto is right opposite your Sun, and you've been feeling that heavy since like late 2022 coming into 2023. It's retrograding out back there. It's going to be opposite for until like November, then it's for good going into Aquarius. So for that to happen while the north node in October is going to unlock your relationship house, it's going to unlock Juno, and then Saturn is going to go through there. I can't help but think you may get married by destiny, by fate. Juno, especially being a marriage asteroid with the nodes going through there, could almost set you up for an arranged marriage. And when Saturn starts to go through the seventh post 2025, Saturn going through the seventh house usually equals divorce for people, or they're getting in a marriage, or they're getting in a business partnership. So I thought that was interesting.
That is interesting. Yeah, that's very interesting. It's you know, that aspect of my life you know, it's been crazy, man. It's been real crazy, very crazy.
It looks like you've really finished like a major part of this part of your life, and it's getting ready to segue and transform a whole lot. We could reference like your Sun is so close to making that 270-degree angle with Pluto.
Hmm.
So before you were born, it had probably conjuncted Pluto at the end of Libra, and then made its way square it, opposite it in Aries Taurus, and then it's right about to square. So you've had that 90-degree action, and then Pluto went through, and now for the first time it's opposite your Sun. So that's a whole 90 degrees of just like, development, which I feel the Pluto opposite to the sun in Cancer was dealing with evil possessed people and just having to really
Yo.
see purity and
Yeah.
just getting gaslighted by the world and
I'll take again. I'll take reasons why I'm single for 400, Alex.
Yo, I love it. Yo, that's crazy. Hey, y'all have a way of just attracting the most narcissistic, evil people too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't know why though. Like I mean, we're seeing why now. And you're explaining it very wonderfully. But yeah, I mean, you want to talk about on point, bro? Like on mother effing point, man.
Awesome.
On fucking point. Absolutely. Yep.
Now, I do have another question. I'm not entirely too familiar with how to interpret this, but I do know Neptune moves, it orbits quicker than Pluto. So you do have a 60-degree Neptune Pluto angle. This
Okay.
Neptune in Capricorn is really dope. I have Neptune in Capricorn. I think it spans from 85 to about 98. Neptune in Capricorn is the incredible realization of intuition that at this elite level manifests in physical signs. Like the Neptune, Sagittarius, and Uranus are seeing visions moment to moment, but the Neptune Capricorn is looking at a signpost like this is your sign. Like it makes it tangible. It makes the intuition a lot more tangible. And to see that it's sextile your Pluto is going to intensify and strengthen this application of this intense wisdom. Pluto and Scorpio just kind of really being deep in the psychoanalysis that Neptune is nonlinear. So it could also represent supernatural powers. But now on the IC, I've always been interested in what that's like. I feel like Neptune on the IC adds so much more of a psychic and spirit or supernatural dynamic relative to your home life, your family. I just don't want to be so vague here. With Neptune on the MC, I'm thinking it could influence your relationship with your family, your mother, but I also think that it gives you insight into who people are behind closed doors and
Mm-hmm.
what might be hidden or private. Are you coming into deep intuitive insight when you're private or alone, or your intuition either kicking in when you're in a comfort zone or challenging you out your comfort zone? So those are more questions. I'm just interested in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So my intuition, I feel like I had said, like I've always had this feeling of knowing with certain things, but only since I've really began to like clear myself up, right? Like no alcohol, no meat, right? Like I work out all the time, right? So ever since I've really started to clean my vessel up, I've definitely come into more connectivity, let's say, with my intuition, right? It's clearer, it's sharper, it's always been there, but it's really, really kicked into high gear since I started cutting all that other stuff out.
That's good to know.
Which has also been when I've started to really grow even more outward, with like tarot and crystals and all that other type of stuff, right? So that's for sure. That's absolutely yes. The intuition has always been turned up. It's just, I mean, it's like the difference between bowling like a 100 and a 250. You know what I mean?
Wow.
Like it's up there. It's definitely up there. And then in terms of like what you were saying with my relationships with like my family, like I have great relationships with my family, but I'm definitely like the only one in my immediate family who is like I don't want to say like an outside the box thinker, but one who like, they're very accepting of me and the way that I think. And who knows, they're probably watching right now. So if you are, hello. But I don't want to say that they're not outside the box thinkers, but that's not how they live their life. You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
like, whereas me, on the other hand, like I had said, one of my first tattoos was the word truth. So like I've got this like insatiable desire to always think outside the box, to always gain more knowledge, to always improve on what I'm trying to do and learn for myself. Ultimately to be able to help others too, like because I want to share what is the truth with people, right? Like what else is there to do? That at least that's how I feel anyway.
And you can help debunk this for me right now, because once again, my sister has this aspect, just fourth house Capricorn, and she has Neptune there. So I had theorized fourth house Capricorn may to that person feel like a very strict upbringing, but that was because for her she was never really allowed to leave the house like I was allowed to leave the house. And I'm figuring that could be more because she was a girl. And my parents were just, my mother was stricter on her. I'm not assuming you had that. Like maybe you were allowed, it's not like you weren't allowed to leave the house or not, but did you ever feel like it was more organized, more strict in a way? Yeah.
That's a great question. So, part of my experience in life, right? To give you a quick little summary here, my father, my parents were very hardworking people. My father went to 14 years of night school to get his master's degree while he raised both myself and my brother and worked a full-time job, right? So there was definitely a level of strictness, let's call it, in terms of the structure of how we were instructed to do things, right? So like we couldn't play, Super Nintendo until we did all our homework and played outside, right? So like growing up, yes, it definitely did seem constricting. It seemed frustrating. I'll use the word frustrating at times when I was a kid, right? Because as a kid, you want to just, you want to dick around, you know what I mean? But in all honesty, that is, although it felt kind of constricting and restricting at the time, it's also instilled a lot of the values that I have currently as an individual, like that structure, that truly looking back on it, it was a love, you know what I mean? Like I don't think there was any ill intent in terms of like how they were trying to present this structure, to me, making sure that I took care of what needed to be taken care of first before I went and did whatever I wanted to do, But yeah, as a child, absolutely, it felt very like restrictive, constricting, those types of things. Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting. Okay. A discipline for sure as well. That's
Oh
awesome.
yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Yep.
That's really awesome. So yeah, that's a initial archetype analysis assessment of the chart. The next chart I like to do is the progress chart that will show us where you're at right now. So especially given your age, your sun is probably progressed in a Virgo right now, and
Okay.
your rising is probably, if not Scorpio, definitely Sag, and that just lets us know what chapter in your story you are right now. But as far as the natal chart, really awesome. Pluto's going to awaken to Jupiter over the next couple of decades. And yeah, that's the reading.
That's dope, man. I really appreciate it. Just it's funny because I've talked to professional astrologers before too. It's been many years. Not definitely even since before I stopped drinking and really cleaned my temple up, right? So to hear it now in a different, like a clearer, even clearer frame of mind and everything, and with you being on point as you were with your general assessments here with the placements, man. And I really appreciate you coming on. It's been an awesome conversation, and we'll definitely do it again for sure.
Likewise, I appreciate that. And now that I know you have a channel, I'll invite you on my channel. We could probably read tarot and just kind of interview you and everything.
Yeah, anytime, man. That would be awesome. Absolutely.
Sweet. All right.
Yeah, man. Good deal. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
No problem. This is fun.
Absolutely. You have a good night, man.
Likewise.
Take care.